Okay, so I'm sending it to YouTube. Maybe I'll also record it on the computer just in case. Hare Krishna, everybody. Today is October 17th, 2020, and we are going to start with chapter 3. Okay, so I'm sending it to YouTube. Maybe I'll also record it on the computer just in case. Hare Krishna, everybody. Oh, today is October 17th. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnanam Jana Shalakaya Chakshurunmitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namah Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Sapadantikam He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namastute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vishvano Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Bhaya Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासादि गौर भक्तविंद हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे. So today we are starting with chapter 3. I believe last class Premdam Prabhu went through some of the essay questions from chapter 1 and chapter 2. So first I will quickly go through chapter 3, and then I feel that the best way to go through the chapter is go through the questions. That way um, we actually cover the material much faster rather than going verse by verse in the chapter. So, and before we start the chapter, I request all of you to read the chapter before you come to the class. That way you can actually learn and go deeper into the subject. Because when I say something, if you haven't read the chapter, then a lot of things will just fly over your head, and then you will try to go back and read it and catch up, but then it's too late. So going forward, please read the chapter beforehand, the translation and the purport. It won't take maybe a couple of hours. You can finish the whole chapter, but that will really help you to absorb. So let me share the screen. So chapter 3 starts with a question by Arjuna because he's kind of confused about what he should do. He said, Jai Shri Cheta Karmanaste Mata Buddhir Janardana Tatkim Karmani Gore Mam Niyojeshi Keshava. So the chapter 3, in essence, from a very high level, high point of view, chapter 3 is about Karma Yoga. And it's about how to balance living in this world, working in this world, and also develop a sense of renunciation or detachment. That's what chapter 3 is about. It is also about um, staying aloof while living in this world. So, just like the lotus leaf, the petals of a lotus, engaged in all sorts of activities, but not attached to anything. So that's what this chapter is about. And it has 4 sections. So the first section is, and the acronym for this chapter is TREE, T-R-E-E. And the first 9 verses, 1 through 9, and the acronym for them is Tyaga, or T for Tyaga. And the next one is verses 10 through 16, and that acronym is rungs, or like rungs in a ladder, the steps in a ladder, rungs. So in verses 1 through 9, the discussion is about Tyaga and the confusion of Arjuna, uh, uh, equating like spirituality means renouncing our active life. For him, spirituality means basically giving up everything. So that's his confusion, and Krishna is going to clarify that. In the next section, 10 through 16, Krishna is going to describe the rungs of the ladder, yoga ladder, basically, to help understand, like to work without any selfish motivation and do whatever we do for the satisfaction of Krishna as a very advanced stage of spiritual realization. So to help somebody go from like ground zero to that highest level that Krishna describes in 10 through 16. So that's why it's called like the rungs of the yoga ladder. And the next section is 17 through 35. And in those verses, Krishna is going to describe the behavior of an exemplary person. So somebody who has achieved success in karma yoga. How should they behave? Do they still continue to need working or not? And things like that. So that's described in 17 through 35. And the last section, 36 to 43, the acronym there is E, enemy of the soul. So that lust and its effect on us and how to overcome lust, that part is described. So that's what this chapter is, 4 sections. TREE, Tyaga, rungs on the yoga ladder, exemplary, and enemy of the soul. That's how you can divide those sections. So Arjuna starts with this question, O Janardana, O Keshava, why do you want to engage me in this ghastly warfare? If you think that, just one second. So that's Arjuna's doubt. If you think that intelligence is better than fruitive work, because in chapter 2, 2.49 or 39, Krishna talks about Buddhi Yoga. And he says the intelligent people, they engage in Buddhi Yoga. So Arjuna thinks that Buddhi Yoga means engaging the intelligence. And he thinks that, Krishna says, Durena hi avaram karma buddhi yoga dhananjaya, 2.49, he says. So Krishna says by intelligence we should avoid, by Buddhi Yoga we should avoid abominable activities. And Buddhi Yoga, Arjuna thinks that Buddhi means intelligence. So through intelligence, we should avoid abominable activities, like Arjuna thought that he should avoid abominable activities like fighting. So that's what he thinks. And then after that, in the last 30 verses of the second chapter, Krishna uses the word Buddhi 10 times almost. So that kind of brings the emphasis on Buddhi or intelligence, and Arjuna thinks that he should not be fighting. But then Krishna again implores Arjuna to fight. So that's why Arjuna is confused that why are you engaging in this ghastly warfare? You think intelligence is better than fruitive work, because he thinks fighting is fruitive work. Intelligence means buddhi, yoga, which means giving up this kind of fruitive work or fighting. That is the premise of Arjuna's confusion here. So he says, my intelligence is bewildered by your equivocal instructions. Therefore, please tell me decisively which will be most beneficial for me. So the last line in this verse is Yena Shreyoham Anu Apnuyam. Shreya. Shreya again means real benefit. So there are 2 terms that is used in the Bhagavad Gita. One is Shreyas, and what is the counterpart of Shreyas? What is the counterpart of Shreyas? There are 2 words which sound very similar, Shreyas and
Austria?
No.
No.
So Shreyas means ultimately beneficial for us, our spiritual life. That's what Shreyas means. So what's the other word that means something else? Something beneficial for our material life, right? That is the meaning of that word. What is that word? Okay. So
Not sure, Babaji.
Go ahead.
Not sure, Babaji.
Not sure. Okay. So the word is prayas, and you should know, as Bhakti Shastri students, all of you should know Shreyas and prayas, because Arjuna uses this word Shreyas many, many times in the second chapter. When he surrenders to Krishna in the 7th verse, right? That you are my guru, I accept you. Yena Shreyam Apnuyam, that please tell me what is the best for me. Here also he's saying what is the best for me. So that should be the focus of our life. What is the Shreyas?
Babaji, isn't prayers means
some referring to someone uh, who who wills our goodness, uh,
Who is what?
who wills our goodness,
Who wins our goodness?
uh, like someone who is um, not uh, who wills, Prabhuji.
Who wins? No, no, no. Prayers means uh, what is best for our material life. So in the Vedas, what is described, like things, rituals, and things like that, they all fall under prayers because those are rituals to benefit our material life. And Shreyas is real spiritual knowledge that helps our spiritual life. So that's the contrast. Arjuna is wanting, Arjuna wants to know what is Shreyas. Okay, let me share again.
Has it come in any of the Bhagavad Gita verses, Prabhuji, this prayers?
Prabhupada, I think, describes in that 2.7
Okay.
where Arjuna surrenders. In the purport, he talks about Shreyas and prayers.
Oh, it's also in the Katha Upanishad as well, right? Yeah, Shreyas prayer.
Oh, is it? Okay, I'm not sure. Yeah, but it could be. Those are very common terms
Yeah.
in the Vedic literature, Shreyas and prayers. So Krishna is going to answer. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, "O sinless Arjuna, I have already explained that there are two classes of men who try to realize the self. Some are inclined to understand it by empirical philosophical speculation, and others by devotional service. So Jnana Yogena Sankhyanam, Karma Yogena Yoginam. So Jnana Yogena Sankhyanam is basically that strand where all focus is given to intelligence, using our intelligence to understand the absolute. And that's what the that's what intelligence means. But Krishna, when he says Buddhi Yoga, he actually means Karma Yoga or Bhakti Yoga. So Krishna's use of the term Buddhi Yoga equates to Karma Yoga or Bhakti Yoga. And that's what he's making clear here, that the path of empirical philosophical speculation basically focuses on intelligence, renouncing the world completely. That's what Arjuna is thinking. So Arjuna is thinking about, like when Krishna says Buddhi Yoga, Arjuna is thinking he means Jnana Yoga, Sankhyanam, using intelligence to renounce the world. But that's not what Krishna means. By Buddhi Yoga, he means Bhakti Yoga or Karma Yoga. That's why he says others by devotional service. So Sankhya Yoga, everybody knows the difference between what is Sankhya Yoga is. Anybody who doesn't know what Sankhya Yoga is? Okay, that means everybody knows what Sankhya Yoga is. Can somebody quickly explain what Sankhya Yoga is?
It's
Analytical description of body and soul.
Yeah, analytical study, understanding the difference between nature of spirit and matter. Sankhya also means to count. Sankhya Purvaka Namagana, counting. Sankhya means to count literally. So when we count the elements in the nature, material nature, all the different, there are 25 basic elements described, right? The Pancha Mahabhutas, the 5 sense objects, the 5 working senses, the 5 knowledge gathering senses, mind, intelligence, force, ego, soul, and super soul. Those are the 25 elements described in Sankhya Yoga. And who's the founder of Sankhya Yoga?
Kapila Muni.
Kapila Muni, who's the incarnation of Lord Krishna, who's the son of Devahuti. So he gave the Sankhya Yoga. And Prabhupada often talks about a fake Kapila Muni who gave the fake Sankhya Yoga. So just for your knowledge, you should know that. And Sankhya
Yeah,
Yoga,
sorry, Prabhuji. That was the question actually. That because couple of places I was reading and Prabhupada is strongly going against Sankhya philosophy.
no,
So
whenever he mentions Sankhya philosophy in a negative way, he's talking about the fake Kapila Muni. But the real Sankhya Yoga, as Krishna is saying, and it is explained in Bhagavatam, the goal of Sankhya Yoga is to realize Lord Vishnu. And
so
that's what
the
is.
second adhyaya is also called as Sankhya Yoga, right?
Yeah, second Adhyaya is also called Sankhya Yoga, especially that part where Krishna talks about the soul from text 11 to 30. He talks about the soul. So that part is called Sankhya Yoga because it is understanding the nature of the soul. That is also Sankhya Yoga. That part also falls under Sankhya Yoga. So understanding the nature of matter, understanding the nature of soul or spirit, that is all Sankhya Yoga. And the goal of that is to understand the Supreme Lord and understand that how we have how we are different from the Supreme Lord, and how Supreme Lord is a controller of both matter and spirit. That is the foundation of Sankhya Yoga.
Prabhu, here is it being talked negatively?
No, here it is positive. Here Sankhya Yoga is in a positive.
Here because Prabhupada is using the word speculate.
Where is he saying that?
Third line.
Yeah, so people who are inclined to speculate and understand things by experimental knowledge and philosophy, so they take to this intense process of study, and because they want to use their mind and intelligence, right? They have very analytical mind, and they take this process of acquiring knowledge, and through the process of acquiring knowledge, they want to connect with the Supreme. So that's what speculate means, to really spin your mind, and here it is used to mean that they want to really critically examine things through Sankhya Yoga. So anyways, you guys can read the purport, but the main thing is Krishna is saying there are two paths, and not by merely abstaining from work can one achieve freedom from reaction, nor by renunciation alone can one attain perfection. So Krishna is making that clear that uh, abstaining from work is not the solution. Running away from work, especially when we are faced with a difficult situation in our life, that time running away from our duty or work is not going to provide us freedom from reaction. Because Arjuna is thinking that if he runs away from the battlefield, then he can become free from the sinful reactions of fighting. That's not going to happen. Even if he uses intelligence, even if he uses Sankhya Yoga at that point, that's not going to save him. Nor by renunciation alone one can attain perfection. So abstaining from work, and renunciation means giving up the fruits of work. So that is not going to renunciation of duty or renunciation of fruits of work. That's not going to help him attain perfection, because he's giving up his duty, and that's not the path that Krishna is recommending. And the reason is that Krishna is saying, this is a very important verse for preaching and also for our personal application. Nahi kaschit kshanamapi jatu tishtati karmakrit karyate hi avasar karma sarva prakriti jegune. Just 1 second, my phone is ringing. I'm doing a Bhakti Sastri class. You can message me, then I'll call you back. So, while we are in this conditioned body, Krishna is saying that everybody is forced to act helplessly according to the qualities he has acquired from the modes of material nature. Therefore, no one can refrain from doing something, not even for a moment. So that is the nature of the this conditioned body. And not only that, that is the nature of the soul. Because the Prabhupada explains that how soul is always active. So you can't really refrain from doing something. And therefore, the path of Karma Yoga is superior to the path of Jnana Yoga, because in Jnana Yoga, you try to suppress all your physical activities, just trying to meditate using your intelligence. And it is a very difficult path. So Karma Yoga is much better, or Bhakti Yoga is much better, because here you can engage your natural propensities for working, for doing something, and then you can achieve perfection by offering your results to Krishna and thinking of him. So this is what Prabhupada said. It is not a question of embodied life, but it is the nature of the soul to be always active. Without the presence of the spirit soul, the material body cannot move, and so on and so forth. And this verse that Prabhupada quotes from Bhagavatam, that's a very important verse. Taktva sadharmam charanambujam hare bhajan apakku athapate tato yadi yatra ka bhadram abhudamushyakim ko varthapto bhajatam sadharmata. Basically, it means that if somebody gives up Krishna's lotus feet and or does not take to Krishna's lotus feet and then does his duties perfectly, his material duties perfectly, what is the value of that? But if somebody takes to Krishna's lotus feet, but then is not able to do it properly, and even if he falls down, then what is the loss? So that's the essence of it, that it's better to even execute one's Krishna consciousness even imperfectly and even fall down. That is better than not taking to Krishna consciousness and just being the perfect executor of your duties in the material realm. It has no good. It's like beating the husk of rice and from which grain has already been taken out. So you're not going to get anything out of it. So the point is that we have to be active, and it's better to act on behalf of Krishna than just use our intelligence for Jnana Yoga. And although they will also achieve perfection, as Krishna will explain in the later chapter, 8th chapter, but it takes many, many births. Text 6. One who restrains the senses of action but whose mind dwells on sense objects certainly deludes himself and is called a pretender. So now this whole concept of pretender is brought in because there are many pretenders who refuse to work in Krishna consciousness but make a show of meditation while actually dwelling within the mind upon sense enjoyment. So it is very, the point here is that the path of, in the path of Jnana Yoga, Sankhya Yoga is also in one sense, ultimately the goal of Sankhya Yoga is Bhakti only. But here the Sankhya Yoga is equated with Jnana Yoga, which is just using the mind and intelligence to meditate on the Brahman effulgence and just study the Vedas, Upanishads, and follow the path of Neti, that this is not, this is not. So the bottom line is there is no outlet to engage the mind and senses in positive activity. And therefore, the mind and senses, they revert back to thinking about the sense objects. Because there is no positive outlet of activity. And there is no purifying agent of bhakti also. The purifying agent in Jnana Yoga is a person's sheer determination and sheer meditation, sheer use of their analytical ability to differentiate between matter and spirit. But while the senses and the mind, they are screaming for some kind of enjoyment. So it's really hard. And that's why Krishna is saying that one often ends up being a pretender if he follows the path of Jnana Yoga. It's not an easy path. So one should not be a pretender. Text 7. On the other hand, if a sincere person tries to control the active senses by the mind and begins karma yoga in Krishna consciousness, that's the point Prabhupada makes, without attachment, he is by far superior. So even a person who's in the beginning stages of karma yoga, that's what the word begins is used. Even at the beginning stage, because the person is trying to control the active senses, not that he has perfected the control of the active senses. But even if a person tries and begins to try to control the active senses with the mind, and the karma yoga and bhakti yoga, they both provide that perfect platform. He's by far superior. So again, Krishna is saying that don't try to be a fake jnana yogi by going to the forest and trying to use your intelligence to suppress your kshatriya nature, that this is not good, so many people will die, I want to be free from sinful reaction, I'll just focus on Brahman. All that is not going to work for you, because very soon your mind will again get agitated about all the injustices, and you'll jump back to fight again. So don't do that. It's better to engage with your duty at hand right now. So Prabhupada says, for self-realization, one can live a controlled life as prescribed in the Shastras and continue carrying out his business without attachment. And in that way make progress. A sincere person who follows this method is far better suited than the false pretender who adopts show-bottle spiritualism to cheat the innocent public. A sincere sweeper in the street is far better than the charlatan meditator who meditates only for the sake of making a living. So it's better to be an honest person in a household life or whatever stage of life you are than trying to make a show of spiritualism. Then Krishna says, perform your prescribed duty, for doing so is better than not working. One cannot even maintain one's physical body without work. So bottom line, Krishna's final instruction is that perform your prescribed duty. and through that you will get purified. And through that you can become free from sinful reactions, not by running away from your duty of fighting, going to the forest, that thinking that you will save these people and you will become free from sinful reactions. That's not what will happen. So basically, Prabhupada is saying that Krishna does not want Arjuna to become a pretender. And that's important for us in our spiritual life also. While we are trying to practice bhakti yoga, we want to be real in our practice. We want to be real. This is the personal application. We want to be real in our bhakti. Not try to create a show of our bhakti, like, oh, what will people say? What will people think? What will other devotees think of me? There is a lot of pretension that still goes on because we are scared of how other people will think of us, and we are never, I guess, 100% honest with ourselves and with others. But that is something that we have to work on. I have to work on that, not to be a pretender in bhakti. And the foundational principle of bhakti is simplicity, which means without duplicity. And we have to identify where we are duplicitous in our bhakti. I feel that I'm duplicitous all the time, and that's something that is part of anartha nivritti, is to give up that mentality of duplicity, to be honest with ourselves and to be honest with others, to show our vulnerability, where we are weak, where we are lacking, what we are lacking, to present that confidentially in front of other devotees. Like yesterday in the class, Sashi Prabhu, he so humbly presented his own weakness in front of everybody, and that was very commendable. So that is being straightforward and being non-duplicitous. So like that, whoever we trust, we can present our weaknesses and find out how I can overcome those weaknesses in our bhakti, because we all have weaknesses, we all have anarthas. Otherwise, we won't be here. So that's the personal application in terms of not being a pretender while we are executing our bhakti. Finally, Krishna concludes this section by saying that how this famous verse, and this is one of the verses that you guys have to memorize for your Bhakti Shastri exam. Yagyathartha karmano anyatra loko ayam karma bandhana tadartham karma kaunteya mukta sangha samachara. Work done as a sacrifice for Vishnu has to be performed. Otherwise, work causes bondage in this material world. Therefore, O son of Kunti, perform your prescribed duties for his satisfaction, and in that way you will always remain free from bondage. So now Krishna gives the perfect solution how to engage in work in this world. But simply engaging in work is also not the solution, because engaging in work causes entanglement, the fruitive results. So how to engage in this work is to perform your prescribed duty for his satisfaction. So while we are performing our duties, we do it for his satisfaction, and also engaging the fruits that come from doing the duty in Krishna's service. So this verse is actually the kind of the essence of karma yoga, how to engage, and then this is also in one sense the essence of bhakti yoga. Krishna repeats the similar thing in chapter 9, where he says, Yat karosi, yad ashnosi, yad juhosi, yad adasi, yat tapasyashi kante, tat kurushya madarpanam. Kind of expanding on this a little bit more. But tat kurushya madarpanam, that offer everything that you do for to me, and do it for my satisfaction. So doing it for Krishna's satisfaction means doing it for the satisfaction of Guru and the devotees. And we'll find out. We cannot create our own idea of what is satisfying to Krishna. What is satisfying to Krishna is revealed by the Guru and the devotees and the scripture. So always in consultation with Guru, Sadhu and Shastra, when we are doing our duties, adjusting our duties in such a way that we have our sadhana and our service and our health and whatever our family obligations, they get sufficient amount of time. We are not always consumed by our material duties, but we are performing our duties for a higher purpose. We are not performing our duties just to earn our living, but there is a higher purpose to our duties. So when we adjust our life in that way, then we'll get higher and higher realizations in our life. And Krishna will help us to adjust our life in such a way that we are always satisfied. Because when Krishna is satisfied, then we are satisfied. If we are not satisfied in our duties, if we are not satisfied in our situation, and that means there's some adjustment needs to be there, because Krishna is then also not satisfied. But anyways, our satisfaction and dissatisfaction should be always checked with Guru, Sadhu, and Shastra. And that way we'll always be on track in Bhakti. So this ends the first section, which is, what was the acronym for the first section?
Tyaga.
Tyaga. And what is this? If you were to summarize this first section, what's going on in this first section in like 2 sentences? Okay, let me call out on people because
Mainly about Karma Yoga, Prabhuji.
go ahead.
Sacrificing duties. Mainly about Karma Yoga, like sacrificing or doing duties in Krishna consciousness, how to offer our results, and what should be our mood while we perform our duties.
Sure. Thank you. It must be pretty early for you, Kiriti. It's like 4 o'clock in the morning.
Yes, Prabhuji. Anyway, I'm going to Mangalarti.
You're going to what?
Mangalarti, Prabhuji.
Mangalarti. Wonderful. Where are you in India right now?
Hyderabad, Prabhuji.
Hyderabad. Okay. Wonderful. Take care and stay safe.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Anybody else? How would you summarize this first section?
Prabhu, it will show the difference between what is intelligence and what is Karma Yoga, and how we can perform our duties, what is our ultimate goal, and as in the ninth sloka mentioned, so we need to do our duties for Krishna to satisfy the Krishna.
Okay, thank you, Venu Prabhu. Who else? Aradhya Madhavi, if you have any, how would you summarize this first section?
Hare Krishna Prabhu, sorry. I was having trouble. So I was thinking in this chapter, you already said it, he describes Niskama Karma Yoga, or the like doing the prescribed actions as an offering to the Supreme Lord Krishna without personal desire, and thus avoiding the bondage in work. That's what it is, correct, right?
That's the conclusion of this section. But what all has happened in this section?
So like it was Arjuna's confusion and renunciation or action. That's the first few texts. That's what I understood.
Okay.
Karma Yoga is higher than Jnana Yoga.
Okay. Karma Yoga is higher than Jnana Yoga. What else? Vishal, any thoughts from you?
Yeah, Hare Krishna.
Lot of echo. Okay. Who else? Shyam Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. I think everyone said what I was going to say. So.
Okay. Anybody else? Vishal, Nikunja, Satsandarbha.
So like
Hare Krishna Prabhu, is it any better?
Yeah, this is good.
Sure, Prabhuji. So here I like this point where everyone is forced to act helplessly according to the qualities he has acquired from the modes of material nature. So we have to work, but if we work, that's Karma Yoga. It is higher than Jnana Yoga, but if we offer our results of the work to Krishna, that's better. And finally, the Bhakti Yoga is much better than Karma Yoga. That's the order that I understood. Bhakti Yoga, Karma Yoga, and then lower Gyan Yoga.
Okay. Thank you, Vishal. And yes, go ahead. Who's that?
Oh, this is Aradhya. So, so it was two types of people were described: Jnana yogis and karma yogis. Jnana yogi who renounce work, and then karma yogi who prescribe the work. That's, and then I think Arjuna asked, like, if you think that Buddhi is better than Kama, why do you want me to fight like that, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And Arjuna brings out a very common misconception people in general have about spiritual life. What is that misconception that Arjuna brings out? And you will deal with this quite a bit when you're preaching to people. What's his name? Anybody wants to answer that? What is the common misconception?
Just do your job, and that's doing your work is service to God. That is a misconception.
Doing your work is worship, basically. That's misconception. But there is one more foundational misconception that Arjuna brings out in this, that people think of spiritual life.
And Arjuna is saying that, Ekeshava, if you want me to engage in the ghastly warfare, if you think that intelligence is better than fruitive work.
Right, but common people don't think like that. Common people have a more simplified misunderstanding about spiritual life in general. And what do they think of spiritual life?
So they think like they have to leave everything. And
yes, that they think that spiritual life means giving up their family, giving up their work, going to a jungle, right? Living the life of complete ascetic. That's what they think spiritual life means. So that's something that you will encounter quite a bit. And in India, people get scared when somebody from the family starts practicing spiritual life. And probably many of you might have experienced that people get, family members, especially parents, they get very alarmed that this boy or girl is now going to give up everything, give up the family and just become a Babaji or Brahmachari in ISKCON and have no connection with us. So that all those things are being addressed here. And also a key component in that is pretender. So because people have such a bad experience with pretenders, right, in society, pretenders means people who pretend to be spiritual, they cause a great havoc in society, right? So our responsibility is to not to be a pretender. And one aspect of being a pretender is also when we deal with the family members in a very harsh way, that they have some fear of us taking to spiritual life. But if we respond to them in a very harsh and negative way or judgmental way, then we are also being a pretender. What do you guys think?
Yes, Prabhu.
How are we being a pretender? Nikunja, can you explain?
I mean, the first of all, I mean, this all the knowledge that we are getting, it teaches us that we are like, it makes us like humble, and it makes us more softer, not like hard. But at the same time, it makes us strong enough to take things as they come, as as arrangement of the Lord. So if somebody is not able to understand, we might have to take a step back too.
Yes. Yeah, pretender can be in so many ways. Like a direct meaning of pretender is that somebody doesn't have the realization, or somebody is not intending to actually practice it, but fool people. That is like a straightforward pretender. Indirect pretender is that we are not at that level, but we pretend that we are at a higher level. That is another kind of pretender. The third kind of pretender is that we don't have that kind of faith or knowledge, but we kind of show with our strictness and with our rigidity and with our false sense of discipline that I am a devotee. And this is what happens, especially in the beginning stages when family members, they find out that we are a devotee. And then we try to either condemn everything else which is not devotional service. And then we try to prove that devotional service is the best. and whatever other people are doing, that is useless. So that is another kind of pretender. When our mind engages in that line of thought that everybody else, whatever my family members or relatives or anybody else who objects to my devotional service, or when they present a doubt, or when they create an obstacle to my devotional service, or when they try to question our devotional service, then we become very agitated, or we try to defend devotional service in a very strong and harsh way, and or argumentative way. And you'll find this even not only with family members, but when you're preaching, you will encounter people who are new people, or they may have opposite point of view. So when somebody presents an opposite point of view, how do we respond to that? And if you respond in a very negative and judgmental way, or trying to defeat the opposing argument with that judgmental mentality, then we are also trying to be a pretender. Actually, so pretender has many different meanings, not just a direct meaning. So yes.
Does that also, like, I mean, we have that judgmental, mentality, that we try to judge sometime, and knowingly or unknowingly, I have seen that I myself doing it.
Yes.
How does, like, do I have to like make a deliberate effort to remind myself, or it also comes with, by, like, if I improve my sadhana, or if I, read Prabhupada's more books, and if I associate with the devotees more, will that come automatically, or I have to make, deliberate efforts towards?
Both. Whenever we find ourselves judging anybody else's practice, even though it may be totally bogus or totally wrong, we may know that, okay, what this person is doing is totally wrong. But when we, one thing is to just observe it and let it go. But when we, in our mind or in our words or in our action, if we try to condemn it in any way, then that just means that our own devotional service is not mature, and that is an anartha. We are seeing some weakness in our own devotional service, and somebody else's imperfect practice or incorrect practice is threatening our own devotional service. And therefore, in our own sense of weakness, we try to kind of judge somebody else. And then that kind of helps us to justify our own weak standing in devotional service. So we try to feel good about our own devotional service by judging others in mind or in words or action. So it just means that when we find ourselves doing that, then recognizing that there is some weakness. Actually, somebody else's imperfect behavior or practice is actually pointing out at some weakness and anartha within myself. And if we accept it like that, like Prabhu was saying yesterday in his class, what is the lesson? What is the lesson? So if you ask that question, that what is the lesson for me? Why is this person's behavior or practice agitating my mind? Why am I overcome by this judgmental mentality? Then that is something that we can correct within ourselves by Krishna's help, or by talking to some devotee. But if we just mystify it and let it go, then we are actually harming ourselves.
It also happens, like, if some of the devotees, they share, some of their experience with you, and like, while talking to them, you realize, this is what is lacking in their like in their part of devotional service, and then you don't say anything, but the things that you heard still bothers you. So how do you deal with those situations?
Somebody else's immaturity or something they said that bothers you or hurts you.
Sometimes they open up, right, and they say things, and then you realize, whatever they are saying about some other person is actually, their immaturity. And I don't know, it really, like, somebody, like, in a recent incident, somebody really shared something with me, and then it bothered me. At the same time, I'm judging that person only. So
Yeah. So I think to see what's going on and just be an observer and not let it bother you so much. If it's bothering you, then that is something that we have to correct within ourselves. Whatever may be right or wrong with the other person, that they have to correct it. But if anything bothers us about another person's behavior or words, then there is something that I have to fix within myself. If we always take that route, then we'll actually make advancement. That is an opportunity for us to make some advancement. So we have to examine what is hidden what is the hidden message here? Why is it bothering me? Why is somebody's wrong behavior bothering me so much? And it's not easy, but nothing good is easy, right? To overcome that weakness within us, if you are able to at least look at in a more spiritual way and think about it in a spiritual way, then we'll be able to focus on our own weakness. And that's where the solution lies, not in fixing anybody else. Do not fix anybody else. That is Krishna's job.
Yes,
Prabhu, I'm struggling with the translation of Tyag. Is it the same as sannyas? Or?
Gyan simply means knowledge. Sannyas means giving up this world.
Tyaga. Sorry, I was struggling with the translation of Tyag.
Or Tyaga and sannyasa.
Yeah.
Sannyasa is more like Tyaga means when you give up something, right? You can be in family life, but you give up something. You can be any situation of life and you give up something. You may give up some concept, you may give up some resources or money, whatever, your attachment. So it is more specific to particular thing or situation. Sannyasa is a general situation of life where somebody completely gives up family life and he completely retires for the service of the Supreme. That is a sannyasa.
I understand.
It's a stage of life in one sense, yeah.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. I just wanted to know, suppose if a person who is blaspheming the Lord and to some extent Vaishnavas, is it okay to get upset or, angry at that point?
Please say that again. I missed Vidarbha was saying something. Can you repeat?
Yeah, I'm saying that is it okay if somebody is blaspheming the Lord and the Vaishnavas, we can get upset with that person or angry with that person?
If somebody is blaspheming a Vaishnava in front of you, then Shastra says that one should walk away from that place if you can't correct that person. If the person is not, you don't have that capacity to correct that person, or that person is not going to listen to you, then one should walk away. One should not listen to that criticism yourself. If you have some influence over that person, then maybe then helping that person overcome that criticism or whatever negative they're saying about some other Vaishnava. But
because whenever somebody is saying something against the Lord or Vaishnava or the Guru or something like that, I don't know, I have that feeling of instant rage within me. So I don't know if it is a wrong kind of emotion or.
It's we can feel the rage, but I guess we can't act in that rage.
Okay.
Yeah, we can't act because if you act in that rage, then it's only going to make the situation worse.
Okay.
So depending on the situation, who the person is, do I have influence over that person? Will the person listen to me? Then work with that person. If the person is not going to listen to you, if the person is not going to listen to me, then I'll continue. Then I walk away. And you can at least say that I'm not interested in hearing criticism about other devotees of the Lord.
Yeah. Okay. And then another question is that I just wanted to know the definition of yagya and tapa, both.
Yagya and tapa.
And the difference between them. Yeah.
Yeah, yagya is like offering something in sacrifice. When you offer something in sacrifice, tapa means to burn or to heat up. So tapa means like even waking up early in the morning. It is tapa because it is hard. When we do something that is hard for self-realization, or even for material gains, for whatever. When we exert our body, mind, our soul for something higher, usually it's called tapa. But yajna is specifically means to offer something in sacrifice, and then they kind of go hand in hand together most of the time, right? Because in order to sacrifice something, you have to take some austerity, at least the austerity of the mind if something is dear to you. Sacrifice waking up in the morning and chanting, we are sacrificing our sleep. And at the same time, the tapa is also involved, because to stay awake and chant our rounds with focus, that is tapa.
So that action is both tapa and yajna.
Yeah, most of the time they in devotional service, they will go hand in hand together.
Okay, so if you can elaborate a little bit more with some examples, specifically tapa and specifically yajna, then I probably will help me to understand it better.
Okay, let me think about it right now, because for the sake of time, I have to move on. But let me think about more. Tapa and anybody else in the class, if you think of more specific examples, tapa and yajna. Prabhupada says the 4 regulative principles, they are tapa. They are the austerity for this age, following the 4 regulative principles. Sacrifice or yajna is japa yajna. When we engaging in preaching, there is yajna. Offering, any acts of preaching, they are considered yajna, sankirtan yajna.
Okay. Thank you so much, Prabhu. That really helps.
Okay.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
Prabhu, I was listening to Prabhupada's lecture today, and he mentioned that Jnana Yoga is an ascending process, because you try to understand God using knowledge, and Bhakti Yoga is a descending process. So you don't try to understand God, but one second. But you perform devotional service, and then God reveals, or Krishna reveals himself to you. So where does Karma Yoga fit in all this? Is it a ascending or a descending process? Prabhu, you're speaking on mute.
So Karma Yoga is a descending process, because you're trying to connect with the Supreme in service, offering some parts of your results to the Supreme. So therefore it is. So I have to go now. We have a conference call with my Guru Maharaj. So I have to take that. And we'll continue with chapter 3 in the next class. And we'll try to finish all the main points from that chapter. But please read the chapter before we come.